So I was in corporate America for over 20 years. I was a chief revenue officer in media. And for a while, I was allowing a villain to chip away at my confidence. Someone was treating me disrespectfully, and I made a decision, a conscious decision, to ignore it. That is the wrong answer. Okay. I turned a blind eye to bad behavior. Over a year's time, I was eroding away at my confidence, chipping away at my confidence daily, and not feeling good about myself at all. Finally, one day I made a decision and I said, okay, enough's enough. I'm letting this woman treat me terribly. So I was actually teaching her what she was allowed to do with me, how she could treat me. I was teaching this woman to treat me poorly. So I decided no more. The one thing I need to do first is I need to create confidence within myself again. And then once I do that, I'm going to be able to handle this situation better.
So we have about an hour and there's so much I want to talk to you about. Welcome to Ideology Magazine. Funny enough, today, I wasn't feeling confident. It's like there's a little doubt that creeps in. I feel like, okay, maybe I need days to prepare for this interview. Maybe I need to read all of the books. And whereas normally within a day or two, if I know I can kind of just be present and be ready for a podcast. With you today, I was just like, I want to read everything.
Yeah. Well, that happens to me too. My new book, Overcome Your Villains, is coming out this fall. And I found out that HarperCollins was not possibly going to let me do the Audible version. And I was really upset. And they said, well, you can try out for it and audition. And I was doubting myself. Well, how should I read it? How should I set up for this? And I was asking so many questions and so much doubt. I want to do it the right way. And so I text my friend who has read, she does Audible for her own book for HarperCollins. And I text her and I said, what direction can you give me? Tell me what you think. Like, give me what strategy. And she said, here's the strategy. Ready? And I said, yes. What? She said, just be you. And once she said that to me, I thought, you know what? She's right. And I hung up the phone and I just did it. And then I got it. They approved me. They said yes to letting me do the Audible. But it was just yet again, here I am. Every time you go to the next level and try something new, self-doubt always creeps in.
Seeing your videos where you talk openly about issues that I think most of us wear masks around just is so freeing, because I think even just, I watched one of your videos where you were talking about, the shame that you felt around growing up on food stamps and around poverty. And that's something that almost everyone at some point in their journey can relate to. But what made you feel confident enough to share that aspect of yourself?
Oh, that took the first time I shared that I actually grew up poor, it was a year before I got fired. So I was 42. It took me to be 42 years old before I ever shared that publicly. So that was really hard for me to do. And the only reason I did it is I was raising money for charity at the event. And I knew that if I could get these people to understand that I actually know the pain that these kids are in, that maybe if they felt relatable, they might give more money.
Yeah, it's so helpful for people to understand that anybody from any background at any point can face struggles of all kinds. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's facing struggles. It's just not everybody's talking about it. That's for sure.
Yeah. And for how did it help you to break free and share that openly?
Well, what happened was my assistant was in the back of the event. She was there with me to support me. And I had never shared any of my talks publicly ever. And so she secretly didn't tell me. And she went live to Facebook. I saw her in the back of the room, but I figured she was trying to take pictures of me to share with me or whatever, but I trusted her. I didn't worry what she was doing. Little did I know, she went live to Facebook. The whole time I was talking, it was broadcast to Facebook, to my page, and I didn't know. And so I was done with my talk and I was, talking to people at the event, networking. And then we were leaving and I looked at my phone and it had like hundreds of DMs. And I thought, that's weird. I wonder what happened. And I opened Facebook and I realized she had streamed my talk. And what I anticipated was, oh boy, people are going to tell me I'm a loser. And, that's so embarrassing that you're poor, and all my fears that I had around sharing that, that people would think I'm less than or can't relate to me. But it was the opposite. It was all messages of people saying to me, thank you so much for doing this. You make me feel like I belong too. I am disabled. I grew up poor. I'm not smart. I'm whatever feeling someone had that they thought I'm not enough.
Yeah.
And so once I saw those messages, that became my why to this day. So every time I'm ready to go to the next level, launching the new book, and I'm scared, I think to myself, what's my why? My why is, if I can impact one person and help them realize their potential, help them realize that they are enough, help them realize they're not alone, then that's the whole reason I've been put on this earth. So I always go back then, and I think about that day a lot, because I was really nervous that I was going to cry. I was really nervous I was going to break down, but I got through it. And then I helped a lot of people with that message. And now I want to broadcast every message out there, because I learned you can really help a lot of people.
Yeah. Oh, I'm thinking, actually, you've made me think of how I can share more authentically. So you say that in your book, you say that there's steps, you took some steps to get real confidence. Can you share those steps? After the pandemic and now going into a new world, there's so much anxiety about hybrid working. Do we want to go back to the office? I'm reading a lot and talking to people who say they're facing social anxiety about interacting with people again. How can we build up our confidence?
The way that we could choose to reframe it and look at it differently is to say, this is an opportunity for us to show up in a new way, right? So because we have been on lockdown, been separated, been isolated, and that stunk, right? Yeah. Now we can show up. It's kind of like being the kid when you change high schools. You can show up as any version of yourself because you've been gone for over a year, right? Yeah. So I choose to see it as, I want to show up as the brightest, most powerful version of myself ever. Maybe in the past, you didn't create boundaries. Maybe in the past, you let people put you down at work. Well, today is the day, and tomorrow is the day that you can show up and say, hey, Jim, great to see you. Looking forward to us having a really positive relationship, effective now moving forward, and start showing up and creating boundaries. Start showing up as that best version of yourself. Start stepping into your power. Start using your voice, because we have been on this break. Who's to say you haven't changed, evolved, and grown?
Oh, that's such a powerful way of looking at it, of almost like reinventing yourself to be the version of you that you have evolved into, instead of thinking, okay, what in the past, what before the pandemic was causing stress, and kind of picking up where you left off. Okay, and what about people who have this facade of maybe a role that was restrictive, because now that we've been in each other's living rooms, we've met each other's kids, this kind of a facade, I hope, for most people, that has fallen off, that has fallen away. How can, say, a CEO who used to be uptight but now has during the course of the pandemic has embraced their full humanity, how can they stay in that zone?
That's really up to the people themselves, right? I mean, they have to first want to. We don't know, like, we can't decide that for them. But if they did want to, and they felt fearful that, I'm afraid when I go back to the office, I'm going to go back to my old patterns, that is simply a choice. So the first thing that I would do is understand, get clear with yourself. This is a choice. I can choose to go back and behave the way I used to, or I can choose to embrace this new version of myself and celebrate it. Again, get back to your why. Why do you want to celebrate this new you? Because people connect with you more. People tell you more. They're more honest with you. Others are showing up more authentically. There needs to be a powerful why. So I'd write that down. I'd get really clear on my goal and I'd write it down. I keep my goals listed right here next to me, all written down. Most people will write down a grocery list because they don't want to forget something, but they don't write down their intention and goals for the year. So I challenge everyone, write down that intention, and maybe it's show up as my real, authentic version of myself. This is going to be the 2021 version of me at work. And I'm doing it because I help others embrace their real power when I do it. And that's important to me. So write down your attention, put it in paper, create specific goals, and hold yourself accountable. One of the easiest ways to hold yourself accountable is to ask or elicit an accountability partner. And that means someone that you like, someone that likes you, someone that you trust. Reach out to them and say, hey, here's what I'm working on. I'm making a commitment to show up as the most real, vulnerable version of myself this year. I haven't done that in the past. If you see me doing things authentically, I'd love it if you can cheer me on. Mm-hmm. Conversely, if you see me showing up as an old version of myself, pretending I'm perfect, I'd love it if you could come tap me on the shoulder and say, ooh, you're sliding back. How can I help support you on getting real and showing up as the authentic you?
Is it a yearly thing that you do where you write things you write your goals for the year or the month or the day? How do you stay on top of it?
Yeah, so all of them. My entire career, I came up in sales. So if you're in sales, you're conditioned to understand you have goals every day. You have goals for the day, for the week, the month, the quarter, annually, and beyond. And so I grew up in business that way, that I have massive goals. They're very specific. They're celebrated when I achieve them, and I'm committed to achieving them. The more you focus on goals and goal achievement, the more momentum you create, and the more you train your brain that when I write something down, I will accomplish it, right? So you get in this mindset that this is what I'm going to achieve. And listen, there'll be plenty of people in your life that will tell you no. I'm told no all the time. Everyone told me that I wouldn't sign with HarperCollins leadership, and here's the book right now, right? So you have to learn to tune these negative voices out of your head, stay focused on you and your goals. And so what I do is I write down a huge list, which is my year claims, what I'm going to achieve in 2021. I have that written right here. And then every week, I put together my plan for the week. I map out all of my to-dos, what I want to accomplish. And then every day I focus on very specific things and tasks. And then listen, good things are going to show up and bad things are going to show up. Today, I had a dentist appointment and I have had great teeth my whole life. I went in today and they said, a cavity you had when you were a kid is cracked. We're going to have to pull that out and reconstruct that tooth. That was unexpected. I didn't know that was happening, right? So there's moments in anyone's day or life where you're going to get derailed and get upset and things aren't going to go the way you had anticipated. And it's frustrating. However, I encourage everyone to focus on gratitude. What are you grateful for? Reconnect to the things that make you feel great. I love working out. I love getting enough sleep at night. I love spending time with my son, my friends. I like doing things that I enjoy. So I try to make sure there's time for that throughout my day. And then when, something negative like my tooth happens, it's funny. I came home and I thought to myself, I'm not going to let this derail my day. I'm going to go ahead and put it over here on the side, put a pin in it. I'll deal with it in 2 weeks when I have this surgery, whatever it is. I said, okay, let's get my head clear. What can I work on right now that's really going to lift me up? And I opened up my email and there was this amazing email from someone. I'm building launch teams right now for my book. And someone wrote me this great email saying, I'm all in. I want to help you. Let's drive the book sales through the roof. Tell me how I can help. And I just felt instantly, I thought, okay, let go of the negative, focus on the positive and create more of that.
I just find in the last year, it's just these habits of scrolling and checking the news for what's happening now. Is it lockdown? Is Freedom Day gonna go ahead? And all these things have kind of made me more almost ADD. And so the tips that you're sharing are really, really helpful for just staying focused.
Well, I'll tell you, for me, because similar to what you said, I was doing the same thing. I was obsessing about the news, and the news has been incredibly negative. I always talk about fire your villains. The media became my villain. So I fired my villain. I said, no more news. If something's that important, I'll get an alert on my phone, from a news outlet. I'm not going to sit in front of a TV and obsess about it anymore. So I just removed it from my life, and it helped lower my anxiety a lot. Like I said, I decided I was going to work out every day. That lowers my anxiety. I decided I was going to go out every day, go for a walk, be in the sunshine, walk near the beach, something that would help me reconnect to the world in a positive way, not negative. And then I use on all of our phones, we have those, the recap that my phone provides. It says, here's how you're using your time, X amount of hours on social media. So like a child, I gave myself limitations. Like a child, my phone tells me at 10:30 at night, every night, go to bed, Heather, good night. I've set up all of these reminders so that I can stop myself and say, if I stay up past 10:30, I'm going to be exhausted tomorrow. I'm not going to be my best. I'm going to feel ADD. I'm going to feel anxious. No, I'm going to listen to this reminder and I'm going to go to bed.
But so how was it for you? Because I think you live in Miami, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but so you only had like a shorter period of lockdown, right?
No, because here's what a lot of people don't understand. My son was on virtual school for 1 year and I'm a single parent. So my life was on lockdown for 1 year. He wasn't old enough
for one whole year.
He did virtual school for 1 whole year.
Yeah, see, that's worse than school in a way, because you're having to school them, right? The whole time.
Well, and I didn't, because I'm so busy with work. And so he was in his room, miserable, doing virtual school. I was out here, not able to leave, cooking 3 meals a day with him, trying to ask him about his home. It was not, a lot of people say like, oh, you're very lucky you're in Miami. I'm sure this didn't impact you. This, without a doubt, was the hardest year of my entire life.
Yeah. Oh, we had periods of that. So in like July, the kids went back to school in July, and then just a brief period, I think, from January to February. So we had just a couple of months here and there, but homeschooling was not
the worst.
Yeah. So that's a huge issue for almost everyone I know. The fact that you are able to stop looking for certainty by logging on to the news, which feeds uncertainty and anxiety. How did you manage to stay disciplined? Because I do that for 2 weeks and then I'm like back again.
You need to understand what motivates you. So some people are motivated by their children. To those people, I say, if you're going to show your child, I've made a commitment not to watch media. It makes me feel negative. I'm going to fire that villain from my life. And then 2 weeks later, you go back to it. You're teaching your child to give up on commitments. You're teaching your child to give up on goals. So then when you see your child say, oh, mom, this year I want to play soccer. 2 weeks later, I'm going to quit. It's too hard. You're going to say, I've taught my child this behavior. They're modeling my behavior. So that works for a lot of people, is to think about your child watching. Is this the example you truly want to set? Really having your child be the one that's going to hold you accountable, knowing that they're watching you. For me personally, it's just about, I'm big into goal achievement. So if I'm going to make a commitment to something, I'm writing it down. I'm going to tell other people. When I decided I was going to write this book, I was afraid that I wouldn't do it. So I went to social media and I posted, I am launching my brand new book this year. And I talked all about it because I knew I'd get hundreds of messages back. When's it coming out? What's it about? And that would hold me accountable and force me to take action. So anyone can create, depending on what's important to you, what you respond to, you can create safety nets to make sure you stay committed to your goals. You just have to be serious about achieving them.
Can we talk about Overcome Your Villains? It's not out until November.
Well, right now the pre-order is available. And what I did, because I know a lot of people want it now, is I created a pre-order bonus option, which means anyone that pre-orders the book right now, and I'll share the links with you. Once you pre-order, you go to my website, Overcome Your Villains, you upload your order number or the actual picture of the receipt. And when you do that, what you get for free is you get my $299 confidence video course. You get a 30-day accountability program, email program to help you achieve your goals. You get Overcome Your Villains workbook, which takes you through the steps you need to take to overcome your villains and overcome any adversity. You get the first 4 chapters of the book that nobody else gets access to. You get 1 bonus chapter that isn't in the book. Only people who pre-order are going to get it. And so this was a way to help set people up with the tools that they need now before the book drops November 9th.
Oh, amazing. What made you want to write Overcome Your Villains? What villains are you talking about? Because I think we all have so many different ones.
Yeah, I believe, in my life, I've been my own villain many times. In my life, there's been people I've worked for that have been my villains. In my life, I've had haters that I don't even know that are my villains, trolls online and social media. So to me, and like I said, sometimes the media is my villain, right? It's just up to me to take control of it and fire and overcome those villains. So it can be social media, it can be your job, it can be a family member. It's limitless, but it's not about the villains. It's about how you take control, respond. And I've got a 3-step process that I walk everybody through in the book that's extremely powerful, that will empower everyone to overcome any villain in their life.
Yeah. The one you talk about, the villain, us, ourselves, that's a very powerful one, because a lot of times what I find is you might think it's that person, it's this, it's the media, but sometimes it's really kind of your own fear. And you talk of fear being a green light for you.
So I was in corporate America for over 20 years. I was a chief revenue officer in media. And for a while, I was allowing a villain to chip away at my confidence. Someone was treating me disrespectfully, and I made a decision, a conscious decision, to ignore it. That is the wrong answer. Okay. I turned a blind eye to bad behavior. Over a year's time, I was eroding away at my confidence, chipping away at my confidence daily, and not feeling good about myself at all. Finally, one day I made a decision and I said, okay, enough's enough. I'm letting this woman treat me terribly. So I was actually teaching her what she was allowed to do with me, how she could treat me. I was teaching this woman to treat me poorly. So I decided no more. The one thing I need to do first is I need to create confidence within myself again. And then once I do that, I'm going to be able to handle this situation better. So I launched an ad campaign for myself, to myself. I was in media for 20 plus years, so I know a lot about advertising campaigns and what works. And so I used really powerful messaging around fear is a green light. That means go and go faster. And whenever you feel it, get moving and step into it. Don't run away from it anymore. Many of us were taught as children, when you feel scared, go home, hide. But that was for when you were a child, not as an adult, right? So I decided to reframe the way that I saw it. I used really powerful affirmations. I used an image of myself that at a time in my life, I was very confident. So I would look at that image and remember what it felt like to be that person. I would take action steps daily. And then I married this whole campaign with Kendrick Lamar's song, I Love Myself, because that really helps you. Music elicits emotion, and emotion allows you to connect to words with more meaning. And so I did this campaign for a month, and it ended up really eliciting a lot of confidence in myself. And at that point in time, the woman who had been treating me poorly became my boss, and she fired me immediately. What was great was I had created confidence before I got there to that meeting. And in that meeting, she said to me, you can sign this memo or this memo, but if you sign this memo, I'm not going to give you this check. And she was trying to bully me yet again. And because I was a confident version of myself, I simply smiled at her and said, I don't know why I'm sitting here, don't know why you're firing me, and really don't have anything to say, so I'm leaving. And I walked out of there with my head held high, very confidently, even though I had no idea how I was going to make money. I didn't know how I'd pay my mortgage, pay my bills, but I walked out of there with all of my confidence in hand, and I've never looked back.
You say that you built up your confidence, but how do you stand up to a bully that if you can't leave that job, how do you stand up to them?
Well, first of all, you actually can leave the job. We're only telling ourselves in our mind that we can't. Whatever script you're running in, I was telling myself I couldn't leave that job. Look, here I am. I left the job and I'm okay, right? But what we are doing is we're paralyzing ourselves to say that, well, I can't leave this job. I need this job. You actually don't. If you truly believe in yourself, if you truly create confidence in yourself, the success you found in the company that you're in, you can find elsewhere. You just have to start telling yourself that story.
Right. So that feeling of being stuck is actually one of the scripts that you're talking about. And that's a form of fear that's just keeping you trapped. And so the key to all of it is just building your confidence enough. That way you deal with the bully and you deal with anything external that's happening in your life.
Yeah, like I said, the book is about a 3-step process. It's mastering your beliefs, the actions that you take, and the knowledge that you access. And through that 3-step process, you can truly take on anything. It's always been within you, but breaking it down to these 3 steps. Even today, when I was upset after I left the dentist and I was, thinking, oh, how much money is this going to cost me? How long am I going to have to be out for? What is my face? What am I going to miss for a week now that I have, running through all the negative loop, just started taking off how horrible this was all going to be. I said to myself, go to your 3 steps. Number 1, access your beliefs. I'm telling myself negative beliefs that aren't factual. I need to stop that. Okay. I don't know if my face is going to swell like a balloon. I'm not a dentist. I have no idea. So I need to stop telling myself a story that is a lie. So I stopped doing that. And then I thought, what actions can I take right now that can help me to overcome this challenge? I can research information about what it's like to have a cap put on a tooth. I can talk to people who have already done it, or I can go engage in something that will get my mind off of this. That's what I chose. And I got back to work and that put me in a good mood. Knowledge, what is the knowledge that I'm accessing around this? If I'm sitting down and watching the media after I'm in a really bad mood, I'm going to get more negative. So that's not the right decision for me. What could help put me in a better mindset? What knowledge could I access that will help me to perceive this and take this challenge on in a better, more positive way? That can be, reaching out to certain people that I know will support me through this, that I know have gone through different things, that have made it out the other side. And that's another thing, revisiting in your own mind, what other challenging times have I gone through that I made it through? And immediately I think of coronavirus. I just made it through the freaking coronavirus. If I could get through that, I can get through a busted up tooth.
I mean, yeah, if you look at what we've been through and come through, then we really do have to give ourselves a lot of credit, right?
I tell everybody, update it on your LinkedIn, survived a global pandemic and really proud of it.
What would you say keeps you in a high state or high energy? Because I imagine to write the books you're writing, to speak, all of that is like incredible energy, right? That you have to transform that anxious energy that you have to manage. Public speaking, I imagine, is not, it's not easy, you need to be in a certain state all the time. What are the things that you say, I have to do this and this and this every day to keep myself in that state so I can say yes to all of the things that are coming at me?
Well, first of all, I don't say I have to, I say I get to. So what are the things that I get to do that are going to put me in a great mindset, right? So reframe it right there. I don't have to go to spin class. I get to. I'm healthy enough to. I'm afforded that opportunity and I want to be grateful for that. So I get to work out. I get to eat healthy. I get to spend time with my son. I get to do work that's meaningful, purpose-driven, and makes me feel very, very proud. Now, I will say around speaking, yes, you have to come with a very high level of energy and it can be exhausting, but I actually love it. So when you're doing work you truly love, there's that bonus and that reward. I was talking to a friend of mine today. Her 2 daughters are dancers, very young, 9 years old, and they just won a huge competition. They've been working tirelessly. They're exhausted. And I said, how did they feel at the end? And she said, as much as they have been exhausted working nonstop around the clock, they both cried tears of joy of how proud they were of the job that they had done. That's when you know you're doing the right thing. That's when you know you're in the right line of work, right? These 9-year-olds are already tapping into, we are meant to be on this stage, even though it is hard, even though it's grueling. We love the feeling we get when we're on there. And I feel that same way when I speak. So it's important for everybody, figure out when you feel your best. What is the work that you're doing when you feel your best? Start tapping into that, spending more time there, and then you actually get energy back from it.
How about people who, let's say, were conditioned to be an engineer, but don't have the passion, but they love the money, the security, and all the other things it gives them, but not that? Do you come across people like that? And what do you say to them?
That was me, right? So for 20 something years, that was me. I was working in corporate America, doing a job that was fine. It was not purpose driven. It did not make me feel proud and so excited, but it paid me a lot of money. So I used to tell myself a lie and tell myself a story. you have to be in this job. You can't do something else. You can't leave this company. This is the only thing you're good at. And I told myself that story for a long time. And then luckily I got fired, and getting fired for me was the catalyst to say, okay, I've got to try something different. I guess I'm going to see if I can do anything else. I guess I'm going to see what it is that I like to do. I had no idea.
And so then the steps that you took was that you created Boss in Heels.
I had done that a year before I got fired. That's essentially why I got fired. I launched a personal brand. I launched a website all around empowering others. And the company I worked for did not like it. They did not want me to share my message. They felt that I was threatened by the general counsel, but I stood up for myself and said, I'm not doing anything wrong. And thank goodness I had done that, because I had invested in myself, and the best investment you'll ever make is the one you make in you. And I had created a community online. So when I actually did get fired a year later, I put a post up on LinkedIn and it went viral, and hundreds of thousands of people responded to me wanting to help me, which helped open up doors for me that led me to where I am today.
How long ago was that?
3.5 years ago.
Wow. So just 3.5 years ago, and you've already had like 2 books. This is your second book?
This is my second book. Here's what happened. The first thing I did was I wrote and self-published my first book, Confidence Creator. Then I launched my speaking career. I gave my first TEDx, which was promoted to TED. And then I launched my podcast. And then the pandemic hit, and Harvard hired me to teach professional selling and sales leadership. I launched a consulting business during the pandemic. I signed with HarperCollins Leadership for my new book, and that's led me to where I am today.
You know what? Your boss must have been threatened by you. She must have seen all this and thought, you know what? I'm going to clip those wings and keep her here with us.
No, but here's the thing. I don't, one of the things that I talk a lot about now is about, I don't blame her. That's about her, right? Her limitations is about her. It has nothing to do with me. I'm not the right fit for her. I wasn't the right fit for her. She didn't want me to grow. She didn't want me to shine my light. Those aren't my people. So I was sitting at a table for a long time where I wasn't wanted. And that doesn't feel good inside. Today, I'm also on the board of directors for a company called HealthLink. And today, when we have our quarterly board meetings, everybody wants me there. And they're so excited when I get there. And they're calling to check, what time are you going to make it to dinner? And it's such a more positive feeling to be somewhere. People are actually cheering you on and want you to be.
Yeah. And you think everyone can find that for themselves, right?
Absolutely. I had no idea. I was the person sitting in a boardroom with people who didn't want me there, who were complaining about things that I was doing. I was the person saying, but I have to be here. There's nothing else I can do. This is where I'm meant to be. I built my career for this. I can't leave this job. I can't lose this job.
Yeah. You were talking about a shift with a mentor who told you that you're working, but you're not really thinking about the big picture. And that conversation got you started on thinking about charity work and what else you can do.
Yeah, that was a few years before I got fired. I was sitting with a mentor of mine in New York City, and he was saying to me, pick your head up. You're always looking down at the job today, the job you're doing this year. He said, pick your head up and look at the world. Look outside of this industry. He said, you're so much bigger than this, but you have to pick your head up. And I remember I never thought pick my head up. I always thought achieve goals, achieve quarterly goal, achieve annual goal, do the job that I've been put in. I stayed so laser focused on the company I worked for and the job that I was in. And so when he said that to me, I decided to pick my head up and start talking to different charities to see if I wanted to join one. I ended up joining City Year Miami. I was with them for a decade on their board. And that started getting me speaking engagement opportunities where they were asking me, Heather, will you MC the luncheon? Heather, will you MC this? Will you be a keynote speaker for this? And I was on the board, so I would always say yes. And then that started opening doors for me that I started realizing, wow, there's a lot more out here in the world that I never really thought about, because all I was doing was working and coming home to spend time with my son. And inevitably, that led to my speaking career that I now have.
And you say that you were actually not very confident but not even in speaking terms, like, right? You weren't a public speaker.
Well, I didn't know there was a thing called public speaker. I didn't know there was a speaking business. I had no idea because I lived in this bubble called the media industry, and all I did was talk to people in my industry. So I was speaking at the time for large events, but I wouldn't be paid for them. My company would tell me, Heather, go fly here and speak at this event for us, for the company. So I was all around the country speaking for years. I just didn't know it was a business. And it's funny, I show often on social media, there's video footage of me probably 12 years ago reading from a teleprompter at a huge event with 10,000 people. And then I always split it next to my TEDx talk, talking about the differences. Listen, I don't look confident up there at all. I'm reading from a teleprompter versus now I speak freely. I don't ever read from a teleprompter, nor will I. And the difference is I had to overcome my villains, right? I had to fire the villains that were around me, even including the one that was between my own ears, in order to start realizing I don't need to read from a teleprompter. I just need to show up and be me.
When you talk of the villain between your own ears, is everybody kind of conditioned to some extent, and we all have to overcome this?
I believe that we're all born confident, right? You see little babies learning how to walk, and they're not looking around saying, I hope no one notices I fell. You know, they're laughing, cracking up, and they keep trying again. They just keep going again and keep going again. They don't say, ooh, I fell down, I'm so embarrassed. So I think we're all born confident. However, somewhere along the way, things happen that chip away at it. There can be multitudes of things. Kids that are abused are dealing with shame, right? And shame is so powerful. When you carry shame around, it's impossible to be confident. You cannot be confident. And the only way to extinguish that shame is to shine a light on it and step into it and say, this is what I feel ashamed of, because it can disappear immediately, right? So there's a lot of people dealing with shame that crushes their confidence. There's a lot of people that were forced. I have friends that grew up in very wealthy families. You need to be a doctor. There's been 10 doctors ahead of you. You've got to do this. And they go do the thing and they're miserable, right? So there's positive pressure that ends up being very negative, and those people don't realize their true strengths. Maybe they're a creative painter, but they're not able to show up as who they really are. You will never be your most confident until you start showing up as who you really are, not who people tell you you are. There's people that grew up with siblings where they were constantly compared to one. You know, for me, it was, I was told my sister was the smart one. I was labeled the social one. So I started thinking, oh, I guess that means I can't do well at school. I guess that means I can't do this or that. So sometimes kids start taking on these lanes that people put you in, or these labels, and they keep them with them for life. And they can be very limiting. So, I mean, there's social media, there's so many things that can happen to people outside of one thing. But one thing's for sure, any of it can be overcome.
Yeah. Do you think we women especially face more of a challenge in becoming confident, or do you think we have better tools than men, or just different?
I think the data points to women are fundamentally less confident than men. That's factually, proven that through all the research that I've seen, women are less confident. So there is something to, I don't know if that's innately, genetic, or if it's because of society. I tend to think it's more society, right? And these images of how we're supposed to look, or these rules of how we're supposed to be, the one cooking all the time, or the one, doing it all, these superwoman concepts. So, and part of it can be genetic, right? Because I am the one that when world went on lockdown and my son had to go to virtual school, I knew I would step up and figure it out. I knew I didn't want to. I knew it was going to crush my business. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but there is something, I do believe, just genetically, that when it comes to your child, most mothers, not all, but most mothers will do whatever it takes to help their children thrive. So I do believe there's a lot of different elements to it.
What motivated you to launch Boss in Heels, and can you talk to us about that journey? Because it feels to me like that's the genesis of your journey after your corporate life.
So that happened when I was in corporate America. What happened was I just realized I had been doing charity work for almost a decade, and I realized there was purpose-driven work on one side, my day job that just created revenue for me, and then my personal and family life. And I said, I have to find a way to merge things together. I'm just working way too much. I would be at charity events at night, at work during the day, trying to see my son on the weekends. I needed to find a way to bring things together. And so that's when I decided, you know what? I'm going to take a step back from my charity work right now. I'm going to start bringing purpose-driven work into my life by launching my own personal brand to help empower others, launched my website, heathermonahan.com, launched all my social channels. And that way I could have purpose-driven life while I was doing my job. However, the company hated it and as you know, ended up firing me.
Yeah. How do you deal with haters?
Typically, I just ignore them. I get a lot of haters on social media, especially since this coronavirus. People have, in my opinion, become much more negative, much more attacking. There's a lot more attacks. I mean, you see it in the news, but also just on social media. Some of the comments are crazy. And so typically I just ignore them and leave the comments up. I don't want to give power or feed into people that, people that are trying to hurt others are very hurt. So they've got their own issues. I don't need to go down that road. But every once in a while, I won't ignore. And an example of that is when I launched my first book, someone went to Goodreads, which is a platform that evaluates books.
Yeah.
And they created a fake account with, no face. And it just said Barbara. It was a brand new account. And she rated my book a 1 star and put no verbiage. Like if you're going to write someone has their book as a 1 star, you're going to say, this book was the worst because you're going to say. So it was very obvious, in my opinion, that it was the woman that fired me or one of her cronies trying to bring my ratings down, because it brings your ratings down drastically when you get a 1-star rating. So that time I said, no, I'm not going to let this go. And I took a screenshot of that and I went to social media and I post and I said, guys, I don't know if this has ever happened to you. However, someone just created a ghost account and is trashing my book with a 1 star, but they won't even explain or detail what's so bad about it when all the other reviews are 5-star. Makes me think that this might be the ultimate hater, even the one that might have actually fired me. It would mean the world to me if you could all go to Goodreads and leave me a review to try to level out this 1 star. And that post went viral and so many people went to Goodreads and left me great reviews of my book and helped me. So sometimes I like to flip the script on the haters and use it as leverage to help bolster your business.
Yeah, it's one of those things I really struggle to understand. You see it.
Don't put your energy to trying to understand it. That's what I would say, is that it's about them. It's not about you, and the more I've reframed, if I'm showing up vanilla like everybody else and no one's saying anything negative about me, I'm not being unique and different. So I need to amp it up. When the haters come, it's time for celebration. Wow, we're expanding beyond our little tiny inner circle. I'm really proud of that. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. And then talking about confidence, how important do you think like self-care and, makeup, wardrobe, and all the things that we women really use to kind of treat ourselves? How important is that? Or would you say, in terms of like when you look at ego and authenticity, I wondered what you think about that. Do you think it's inauthentic to wear, to always show up masked?
I think it's up to the person, right? So what I mean by that is, I have a sister who does not like makeup. She never has. She never wore makeup as a kid, not in high school. That's not her thing. However, self-care for her means locking herself in a room for a weekend and reading every book that is in her bookcase. That's really powerful for her. It makes her feel wonderful. That's not me, right? For me, if I'm feeling nervous and I have a big talk coming up, I want to get my hair and my makeup done and get a dress for it so I feel I'm stepping into that best version of myself on the inside and the outside. That makes me feel better. That wouldn't make my sister feel better. And that's okay. She needs to do what works for her and I should do what works for me. I don't think that we should judge how other people see self-care, but just embrace what works for us.
Yeah. That's kind of how I've always seen it. I've always been fascinated by people who see it as vanity or this and that and just label it different things. I think it's just, I've always seen it as it's self-expression. You know, it's so great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your help with promoting my new book. I'm super appreciative. It means the world to me.
Oh, I can't wait to read it myself too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Okay, take care. Talk soon.
Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.